Hi, I'm Maria Fujihara, founder and CEO of SINAI Technologies. I'm here to share some research we've done around calculating emissions of a seemingly mundane product, the chicken nugget, which could have profound implications for the way we measure and reduce product level greenhouse gas emissions. Every product consumers buy has an impact on the environment, but our complex global economy makes it difficult to understand emissions from specific products or a company's value chain. It's challenging to measure these emissions, but ignoring them, it's not an option because supply chains can easily account for 80% or more of a company's emissions. To understand emissions at a product level, companies usually turn to life cycle assessments, which are also known as LCAs. LCA is a methodology for assessing environmental impacts associated with all the life cycle stages of a commercial product and for proposing improvements for the existing processes. This methodology can be very valuable for designing more sustainable products, but it's not best suited for calculating accurate product level emissions. In addition to LCAs, companies can also use the GHG Protocol guidelines to calculate Scope 3 emissions. But both LCAs and Scope 3 calculations use generic emissions factors to estimate emissions. These estimates can be misleading because they often use the most conservative scenarios for emissions intensities. Additionally, data is not updated regularly. The last time data was updated was in 2009. We wanted to see if first-party data on actual emissions from each supplier in a value chain could give us a more accurate and actionable picture, one that would give companies a precise method of calculating emissions and be the basis for taking action and investing in emissions reductions. So we ran an experiment. We decided to collect and calculate primary data instead of using generic databases to estimate Scope 3 and product level emissions. The main assumption was if we were able to calculate Scope 1 and 2 emissions from all the companies in the chicken nugget value chain, we could calculate the entire emissions impact of manufacturing a product without having to rely on LCAs or Scope 3 estimates. Because at the end, Scope 3 is always someone else's Scope 1 and 2. To bring all of this first-party data together, my team at SINAI partnered with 5 major agriculture and food producers to measure the emissions from each stage in the manufacturing process of over 2,000 tons of chicken nuggets in 2021. As far as we know, it's the first research of its kind. We use our software to create granular GHG inventories for each company in the value chain. This step let us isolate the emissions related specifically to chicken nugget production and to exclude emissions associated with other products produced by the same company or facility. For example, in a farm that was producing both soybeans and cotton, we used the total emissions from the farm and the quantity of both crops to calculate the emissions associated with a ton of each product produced in that farm. To compare our results, we also collected values from existing LCA databases. Because LCA data is based on broad estimates, we suspected that the numbers might be off target compared to first-party data, and we were correct. Note that a few parts of the value chain, such as fertilizer production, transportation of grains, and chicken coops, were out of scope for this initial pilot, but we plan to follow up with a more complete study next year. So let's look at rail transportation. The LCA data is not specific to the geographic regions nuggets are shipped between, or it might not take into account how those specific trains are powered. So what did we see? LCA estimates from rail transportation were 64% higher than our first-party data. In the seed production for the grains that are used in breeding and animal feed, Results showed a 768% discrepancy. In the actual production of the grain, LCA estimates are almost 900% higher than the primary data. Finally, we looked at the creation of the finished product. Food processing inside the manufacturing facility was 500% higher with LCAs than primary data collection. The primary data approach is very promising for delivering more actionable and insightful data. More use of first-party data will help manufacturers assess suppliers' impact, and it will lead to more informed decision-making on where to make capital investments in decarbonization. Our pilot research shows that better and more granular inventories will lead to a future where companies can make better investments for reducing emissions, even when there is a complex chain of a product production. This means that consumers will be able to also make more informed decisions, so we can efficiently transition to a low carbon economy without having to give up on some of the things we love the most or completely disrupt the entire existing food system.